I never believed silence could be so loud until that night. It was just past 11 p.m., and the city outside my apartment window had gone still. No car horns, no chatter, only the hum of streetlights and the soft, rhythmic ticking of the clock on my wall. I had always found comfort in that sound, but that night, it mocked me. Each tick felt like a countdown to something I couldn't stop. Her name was Claire. We'd been married for 8 years. 8 years of what I thought was a partnership, not perfect, but real. We had plans, traditions, arguments that always ended with laughter. She was my anchor, the one who made sense of my chaos. Or so I believed. That night, I came home early from a work trip. My flight had been moved up, and I didn't bother to text her. I wanted to surprise her. It was supposed to be sweet, romantic even. I imagined her in her favorite sweater, curled up on the couch watching one of those awful crime shows she loved. Instead, I opened the door to darkness. At first, I thought she was asleep. The living room was dimly lit, the faint glow from her phone screen bleeding through the hallway. Then, I heard it, a whisper. Soft, quick, and wrong. The kind of voice that doesn't belong in your home. I froze. Then came another whisper, a man's. I can't describe what that moment did to me. It's not rage, not yet. It's something colder. The kind of stillness before a storm. I stepped forward slowly, my shoes soundless against the floor, my breath shallow and sharp. The bedroom door was half open. The shadows inside moved in rhythm. And then, like a cruel movie cue, her laughter broke the silence. Not nervous laughter. Not forced. Real. Happy. I didn't push the door open. I didn't scream or throw anything. I just stood there and watched through the small crack in the frame, enough to see the man's hand, the curve of her shoulder, the familiar sheet I had bought with her last spring. Every heartbeat felt like a hammer in my chest. When they were done, she spoke first. He'll never know. That's when I left. No scene. No confrontation. I closed the door behind me as quietly as I'd opened it. My hands were steady, my breath even. I didn't cry. Not then. I drove until the skyline disappeared in my rearview mirror. I don't know how long I drove or where I was going. All I knew was that I couldn't go home. Not yet. Not until I understood how someone could look you in the eyes every day and lie that easily. By the time I stopped, I was at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. I sat there for hours, staring at the steering wheel. The numbness began to fade, replaced by something darker. Not sadness, not fury, but resolve. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to beg for explanations or throw accusations. No, I was going to understand why. And once I did, once I had every piece of the puzzle, I would make sure that the both of them never forgot what it feels like to lose everything they took for granted. That was the night I stopped being the man she married, and the night I became someone else entirely. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in my car, parked outside a 24-hour diner, watching strangers come and go under the harsh fluorescent lights. It was strange. The world looked the same, yet everything inside me had changed. The man I'd been the night before, the trusting husband, the forgiving soul, was gone. In his place was someone colder, quieter, calculating. By sunrise, I had made my decision. I wasn't going to confront Claire, not yet. She had built a lie so carefully that it deserved to be dismantled the same way, piece by piece, in silence. When I finally walked back into our apartment that morning, she was in the kitchen, wearing my shirt, the same one I'd found tossed on the floor the night before. "Hey, you're home early," she said with a smile that nearly broke me. She crossed the kitchen, kissed my cheek, and poured me coffee like nothing had happened. Her eyes, those soft hazel eyes, didn't flinch once. She was a master at this. And I realized then that the woman I loved wasn't real. She was a performance, a carefully constructed illusion. So I played along. I kissed her back, smiled, and told her I missed her. I even laughed when she told me how lonely she'd been while I was gone. Every word felt like poison, but I swallowed it with a steady hand. That evening, when she said she had plans with friends, I didn't stop her. I just watched her go in that same red dress she used to wear on our anniversaries, hugging her figure, perfume trailing behind her like a warning. Once she left, I followed. I wasn't proud of it, but pride wasn't what drove me anymore. It was clarity of the need to see, to watch her lie play out in real time. She didn't go to her friends. She drove 15 minutes out of town to a small bar near the river. And there he was. The man from the night before. He wasn't what I expected, not tall, not particularly handsome. Just ordinary. The kind of man you'd forget after walking past him. But the way she looked at him, the softness in her smile, the ease in her laughter, that was what killed me. I hadn't seen that version of her in years. They sat close, their hands brushing, their eyes locked. I sat outside in my car, engine off, watching through the glass like a ghost haunting his own life. In our past. Then they left together. I followed them back to his apartment building. They disappeared inside. And for the second time in 24 hours, I sat in the dark and listened to silence tear me apart. But this time, there were no tears. Only calculation. If I confronted them now, I'd lose everything. Her lies would twist into excuses. She'd cry, maybe even blame me. I knew that game. So instead, I decided to create my own. Over the next few days, I started to prepare. Quietly, methodically. I backed up her texts, cloned her phone, found every hidden account she thought I didn't know existed. She wasn't careful, not with passwords, not with secrets. Because she never thought I'd look. And as I read through her messages, every word cut a little deeper. I wish I could tell him it's over. You make me feel alive again. He's so predictable. It's almost sad. Each message was a match dropped into gasoline. But I didn't burn, not yet. Instead, I smiled. Because in those words, I saw something even more powerful than anger. I saw leverage. This wasn't going to be about screaming or revenge in the heat of the moment. This was going to be art. A slow, meticulous unraveling. And when it was over, Claire wouldn't even see it coming. She'd wake up one day and realize her perfect life, the house, the friends, the future, had all vanished quietly, piece by piece, and she'd have no idea that the man standing beside her in the dark had built every step of her downfall with his own hands. It's strange how easy it is to fake normal once you've lost everything inside. For the next few weeks, I became the husband Claire always wanted me to be: attentive, patient, affectionate. I took her to dinner, sent her flowers at work, even planned a weekend getaway. She loved it. Of course she did. Because she thought she'd won. Every smile, every soft kiss she gave me was another layer of disguise, a way to keep me blind while she lived two lives. But the thing about pretending, I'd gotten better at it than she ever could. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her shadow. I knew when she met him, where they went, what they said. I read every message before she did. I tracked every location. I could have destroyed them both 100 different ways, but that would have been too easy. To clean. Revenge, real revenge, isn't about fury. It's about precision. The first trap started small, subtle enough that she'd never see the strings. One morning, I told her I'd been contacted by a friend, a lawyer who specialized in private investments. I said I was thinking of selling part of my business to free up time for us. She smiled, kissed me, and said she thought that was a great idea. What she didn't know was that the lawyer didn't exist. It was Jack, an old friend from college. A man who owed me more than a few favors. Through him, I started feeding information into Claire's world. Stories, rumors, whispers. A potential buyer interested in her company's upcoming project. An opportunity for partnership, anything that could draw her into a web that I controlled. And she took the bait. She started mentioning the buyer to her boss. She even bragged about how she could help me negotiate a better deal, all while keeping her secret lover in the loop. That's when I realized something even darker. The man she was cheating with, Mark, wasn't just an affair. He was her coworker. They were using my name, my company, to push their own little side deals. They were stealing from me. And somehow, that betrayal hit deeper than the infidelity. I didn't get angry. I got focused. I had Jack send over a few fake documents, realistic ones, with signatures and numbers that made everything look legitimate. Claire's curiosity turned into greed, and greed turned into carelessness. She started using her work email for things she shouldn't. That's all I needed. Within days, I had access to her corporate system, every file, every message, every trace of her and Mark's little side hustle. It wasn't just an affair anymore. It was fraud, the kind that could ruin both their careers. The first trap had closed, silently, and she had no idea she was already inside it. That night, when she came home, she hugged me tighter than usual, told me she felt guilty for not being around as much, Her voice cracked a little. Maybe she really did feel something, but as she buried her face in my chest, whispering "I love you," I realized how hollow those words sounded when you already knew the truth. So I whispered back, "I love you too." And I meant it not as affection, but as a promise, because love, once betrayed, can become the sharpest weapon of all. By the time the fourth week rolled around, Claire was smiling more than I'd seen in years. She thought life was perfect again, that my business deal had distracted me enough to stop asking questions. She was wrong. While she slept beside me, her phone buzzing faintly on the nightstand, I watched the numbers add up: money transfers, email drafts, new messages to Mark written with the same soft tone she once used for me. They weren't just playing with love anymore. They were playing with fire, through Jack. I leaked a few fake emails from the buyer we invented, enough to make it look like Claire and Mark were cutting a private deal behind my back. Something that looked harmless, but when printed and presented the right way, could ruin careers. They took the bait like children chasing candy. Every word they typed was another nail in their own coffin, but I didn't rush it. Revenge is timing. Knowing exactly when to twist the knife, I waited until a Friday night, when she said she was staying late at work. I already knew where she was: Mark's apartment. I'd been there earlier. I'd left something behind, a small flash drive, hidden under the edge of his desk. One that would copy everything from his computer and upload it straight to my secure server. By midnight, I had it all: private chats, emails, documents, bank transfers. Proof not just of her betrayal, but of their crimes. When she came home the next morning, hair messy, smile soft, I handed her a coffee and kissed her forehead. She looked up at me and said, "You're being so good to me lately. I don't deserve you." And she was right. That weekend, I made my move. I sent anonymous copies of their emails to her company's HR department, to the board, and even to one of the journalists who covered corporate scandals. Not all at once, had just enough to raise suspicion, enough to make her squirm. By Monday morning, the calls started coming. She tried to hide it, tried to stay calm. But I saw the panic behind her smile. The empire she'd built on lies was beginning to crack, and I hadn't even touched her personally yet. That part was still coming, because when I finally looked into her eyes and told her I knew everything, I wanted her to understand that this wasn't a reaction. It was justice, perfectly designed. The call came just after dawn. Claire's voice was trembling. "They're investigating, Michael. Someone leaked private documents, and they think it was me." I stood by the window, the morning light cutting through the blinds in thin, perfect lines across my face. "Why would they think that?" I asked calmly. "I don't know," she whispered. "But it's bad. Mark's not answering my calls. They're saying he might be involved too." I could almost hear her pulse through the phone, fast, desperate, cornered. She had no idea I'd already erased my fingerprints from everything. When she came home that evening, her face was pale, makeup smudged, eyes red from crying. She threw her bag on the couch and looked at me with the kind of fear I'd never seen in her before. "They fired me," she said, voice breaking. "After everything I did for them, they just..." She stopped when she saw my expression. Because I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even pretending to be. Her eyes narrowed. "You knew something, didn't you?" I didn't answer. I just poured her a glass of wine, set it on the table, and said quietly, "Tell me, Claire. How long?" The silence stretched between us like a blade. Her lip trembled. "It was a mistake, Michael. It didn't mean anything." I laughed. A sharp, hollow sound that filled the room. "You planned trips together. You used my money to pay for his hotel rooms. You told him you wanted a life without me, but with my credit card, right?" She froze, tears pooling, words dying in her throat. She tried. "I didn't want to hurt you, but you did," I said, stepping closer. "Every single day you looked me in the eyes and lied. And you thought I wouldn't notice." Her phone buzzed on the counter. Mark's name flashed across the screen. I picked it up before she could move. "Answered." "Mark," I said quietly, "you might want to stop calling. They're already building a case." A pause. Then his voice panicked, angry. "Who the hell is this?" "I'm the husband," I said. "And you're finished." I hung up. Claire fell apart. She begged. She said she'd leave him, said she'd fix everything. But there was no fixing this. There never is. I looked at her, really looked, and realized I didn't love her anymore. All that was left was the memory of what she'd destroyed. That night, she slept on the couch. I didn't. I stayed awake, watching the city lights outside, thinking about what came next. Because destroying her career wasn't enough. She needed to lose everything the way I had. And I wasn't done yet. A week passed. The house felt like a grave. Claire barely spoke. She wandered through the rooms like a ghost. The silence only broken by the sound of her phone unanswered calls. Desperate messages from Mark. Until one morning, there were none. I'd made sure of that. Mark had vanished. His accounts frozen, his reputation shredded. A few well-timed leaks to the press about his ethical violations and corporate misconduct, all backed by the evidence I'd quietly planted, made sure he wouldn't get another job in the industry. As for Claire, her name was already toxic. Every headline, every whisper in her circle, tied her to him. Her world was collapsing, one rumor at a time, and I watched it all from across the room, sipping coffee, my face unreadable. That's when she finally broke. She came into my office late one night, hair streaking her face. "You did this," she whispered. "Didn't you?" I didn't answer. I just looked at her, the way you'd look at a stranger you once thought you knew. Her voice cracked. "You ruined my life, Michael." I set my pen down. "No, Claire. You ruined ours. I just gave you the mirror." She fell to her knees sobbing, asking me to stop or to forgive. But forgiveness is a luxury, and she'd already spent hers. When she finally left, she took nothing. Just her phone, her keys, and the last pieces of the life she'd broken. A month later, the divorce papers came through. I signed them without reading. I moved to another city soon after, smaller, quieter. I found a place by the water, where the air was cold and the silence didn't feel like punishment anymore. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking about her, not with anger, not even with love, but with a strange kind of peace. Because revenge isn't always about rage. Sometimes it's just about balance. She took everything that made me trust. I took everything that made her safe. And that, I suppose, is justice, so cold, clean, and final.